All right, everybody knows what Zoom is these days, so it's just become the in thing for clients to want to jump on a call with you to go over their design. And this is great. I get to share my screen and show what the design looks like and just better connect and get to know the client better. There's just one problem. My backdrop is kind of embarrassing. It is a plain white wall with some holes in it and a wire rack falling over. So I need to clean up my office area a little bit. We're gonna do this with some genuine mahogany tree stumps. These tree stumps came from Elements Wood Imports, a small family importer of exotic woods from the island of St. Lucia. So thank you, Elements Wood Imports, for sponsoring this video. For this project, they gave me a few of their offcuts that they thought I could turn into a decorative art piece. All right, so I'm gonna turn them into floating decorative shelves. So I'm gonna square off this top portion here so I have a nice flat surface to set some stuff on. And then these areas where they cut the branches off, I'm going to just kind of round over and sculpt them into a nice organic shape. So they're not exactly flat. So the first thing I'm gonna do is flatten these guys out. Since this is such a weird, odd shape, there's not really a square edge, I'm gonna build a little jig here to see if I can square it up and find a flat edge. All right, it's not perfect, but it's gonna get me there. Little flex in the middle, but I think for just something that's gonna hang on the wall, I think we're gonna get it. I think it's gonna work. All right, that worked out pretty well. So I'm gonna take this jig apart and repurpose it to that guy and do the same thing. All right, so what I'm trying to do here is decide how it's gonna hang on the wall, how straight it's gonna hang. So I need to cut the top off to be level so I can set stuff on there and then have it just hang really nice and cool looking. So I'm just kind of just going to scope it out here and see what we come up with. I think I'm going to cut it right about here. So I'm measuring down the distance from the bandsaw blade to the edge of the bandsaw table. And this piece of plywood is going to ride along the edge of the bandsaw table, allowing me to cut along this line to cut it perfectly parallel and level. All right, so that worked out pretty well. Got some bandsaw marks on here, so I'm just gonna clean it up with some light passing with the hand plane, flatten it out. All right, this is end grain, so it's definitely a workout to hand plane and slow going, but we're getting there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, I'm gonna work my way down to sand up these chainsaw marks. I think that black on there is like a sealer paint. So I'm gonna sand these guys off with the belt sander. If the belt sander's not aggressive enough, we'll switch to a disc grinder. I'm just gonna work my way down. All right, I don't know how well it's shown up on camera, but this side right here is also a chainsaw bark. It just isn't black like this. So I don't think they painted this side when they cut it. So there's a natural line here between where the chainsaw was cut and the natural edge of the bark. So I think I'm gonna sculpt this along here and then just carve it around. So the mahogany grain of the wood will show through here. And we'll do something with this bark inclusion. Hopefully it will sculpt out real nicely. And then I'll just clean up this natural color underneath the bark of the tree that showed up there. So that's the plan. This thing is an odd shape, so I just have it kind of propped up here precariously and hoping that it's sturdy enough as I route. And I have built a little jig to route out a slot for the cleat to go, and I'm just using a pattern bit and taking shallow passes. All right, so I cut a French cleat here. The glue and staple it into place. All right, and then this piece will just go on the wall like this, and it'll hang from it like that. All right, I also picked up these beams from Elements Wood Imports, and I just squared them up at the joiner and planer, and now I'm going to route a slot in here for the French cleats to go to hang them on the wall. I think that'll be a nice looking shelf when I'm done. Super simple to make, just square up some lumber and add a French cleat. See if I can do it left-handed. Close. All right, since these guys are nice and square, instead of building a jig to route this out, I just marked in some layout lines, and I set up my sled here with my router with a depth stop, and I'm just gonna route it out to my layout line here. All right, so while the finish is drying on the shelves, let's start hanging some other stuff here. All right, so a quick tip on how to hang picture frames. We're just gonna find our center here. All right. Just use painter's tape so I don't have to write on the frame itself, even though this frame needs to be replaced. It's kind of rickety. All right, so there's my center line. All right, so we have this cord here, and we want to know where to put the nail. So we need to measure down here, so that way when we go to hang it, we'll know exactly where it's at. So we're about 6 inches from the top of the frame. So I think it's going to look pretty good right there. So I'm going to feel up here where I found my tape mark and just make a light mark on the wall for center. All right, and then I'm going to measure 6 inches down, because that was how much slack we had in our cord. All right, and that's where I'm going to put the bottom of the hook. We'll erase our little mark we made earlier. All right, now it's exactly where we wanted it. All right, since my shelf bracket is not wide enough to catch across 2 studs, I'm going to use mollies to hang them. I've already pre-drilled for the mollies, so I'm just going to mark where my holes are going to be. All right, switch to a bigger bit. All right, now whenever I'm drilling for mollies, I always want to make sure I'm just doing really light push with the drill and let the drill do all the work, because if there's something behind that wall and I push in real hard and poke through hard, I could pierce into a pipe or a wire or something. So I just let the drill do all the work, and once it breaks through, then I'll just give it a little push just to make sure there's nothing back there without the drill running. All right, so it's coming along. I just need to hang the rest of the shelves, and I'll have to figure out what to do with this vent another day. Maybe I'll build some kind of decorative something rather to go over the top of it. So I grew up on Sesame Street and PBS, where my kids have grown up on YouTube. So they of course have all kinds of suggestions of what should go on these shelves. So I'm gonna let them figure that out. I'm really happy with how this project turned out. It looks great. My clients love it. It's been a great conversation starter to be able to tell them the story of where they came from. It's Genuine Mahogany. It came from the island of St. Lucia, and it's imported by my friends Elements Wood Imports. They've been good friends of mine for a long time. They actually used to live down the street from me before they started their import business. And they're just importing some really cool stuff, really cool exotics. So I will put a link in the description below that tells a little bit more about their story. If you're interested, definitely check them out. So thank you, Elements Wood Imports, for sponsoring this video.